Hello, you're watching West Bloomfield 911. I'm Officer Rick, and on behalf of Chief Michael Patton and the men and women of the West Bloomfield Police Department, welcome to the show. Before we go into something you're used to seeing, I want you to take note that we have a new set, we have a new table, but we still have an old host. But hopefully you still enjoy it. Before we go into the Corner Spotlight, a segment that I think you enjoy, I want you to introduce our guest today, a couple of West Bloomfield's finest. We have Recruit Officer Katie Roshirt, who just joined us within the past few months, and Senior Officer, Officer John Truitt, who's been on the show before. So I want to welcome you both to the show. Now, before we start talking about the FTO program, we're going to go to the Corner Spotlight, so just bear with me, okay? Folks, on your screen, you should see one of my favorite employees of the West Bloomfield Police Department. We have Dana Moricheski. Now, Dana's been with us for quite a few years now. She started just shortly after I did. And she started in 1994 as a dispatcher. She spent 14 years in that hotbed there and then decided she wanted something a little more sedate and went into the records department as a records clerk. And in 2011, she joined the Investigations Bureau, where she is now as the secretary. Dana has done great work with us over the years. She's always like Johnny. No, I can't say Johnny because he is not a he. He is a she. She's like Joanna on the spot, always getting us what we need in a very timely fashion. So we want to thank Dana for all that. And she also helps us in the crisis negotiations, keeping things tight and together for us. Dana's been with us 19 years, and if you want to take Dana to lunch, you better take her someplace where they have pasta, because she said that is her favorite food. And I asked her what type. She said any pasta. So if you take Dana to lunch, take her to where they have pasta. Her favorite book is The Twilight Series by Stephanie Meyer. And I've got to be honest, I don't know a thing about it other than I think my daughters read that. And her favorite movie, Somewhere in Time. And I think that's a chick flick. A 1980 movie starring the best Superman, Christopher Reeve, and the lovely Jane Seymour. Her favorite music is anything except classical, jazz, or rap. Dana, what can I say? As far as accomplishments and hobbies, she said her children didn't even bat an eye, and rightly so. She's got beautiful kids, and she loves boating and snowmobiling, and she is a woman for all seasons. It doesn't matter if it's hot or cold, she makes the best of it. And when I asked her what her favorite quote was, she commented about one that you see often on bumper stickers and signs nowadays: live, laugh, love. And Dana, I'll bet you don't know that that's really an abbreviation from a poem by Bessie Anderson Stanley, who lived from 1879 to 1952. So Dana, I hope you continue to live, laugh, and love. Thank you for being here and for all you do. We're going to turn the Corner Spotlight off. Dana, I'll see you in the barn. And we're going to go to A Dumb Criminal. It's a segment we've brought back every now and then. I hope you folks enjoy it. Today we're going to talk about a couple of people who lived out in the Phoenix, Arizona area, and thank goodness they're not here in Michigan. And after a long night of drinking and alleged fighting, a young woman called 911 and said her husband was choking her. The police responded to the scene, and upon further investigation, they'd found that her husband had thrown a bunch of knives on the floor, kitchen knives, and foolishly asked his wife to stab him. Now, I've been married a long time, and that's one thing I know better than to ask my wife to do. She'd probably take me up on it. In this case, they found out that he had just been stabbed in the back very mildly, which is a good thing. And do you really want to know what they were fighting about? They had taken a quiz in Cosmopolitan magazine, and that's what they were fighting about. You know, folks, it's time to take up an instrument. You really got me worried here. So I'm glad they're in Arizona. Please stay out there. We have enough of our own here in Michigan. Folks, we'll be right back. We're going to talk to our guest, Officer John Truitt and Officer Katie Roshirt. Come back, will you, please?
You're watching West Bloomfield 911 on Civic Center TV, a service of the Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communications Commission. For more information or to watch episodes on demand, visit civiccentertv.com/WB911. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
The West Bloomfield Police Foundation raises money to help those who protect and serve the community. Whether it's emotional or financial support, the foundation provides a helping hand to officers, their families, and those in the community. For more information on the West Bloomfield Police Foundation, contact Kurt Lawson at 248-975-8900 or visit wbpolicefoundation.org.
We are back. I'm going to introduce by seniority rather than beauty, so we're going to introduce Officer John Truitt. He is our field training officer, one of our field training officers, and John's been with us since 1981, correct?
Yes, I
John, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Glad to have you on once again.
Thank you.
You're an old hat at this.
Well.
Or maybe we're just both getting old, one of the.
That's true.
Now, why don't you let the folks out there know what is a field training officer?
A field training officer is a senior experienced officer in the department, male or female, who has proven themselves knowledgeable in the jobs and the tasks that we have to do. Then we're sent to a special school to learn how to train and educate new police officers. And then our job is to pass down our knowledge and experience to a new officer, as well as to educate them into the policies and procedures of the police department and the complexities that this job entails.
You know, and you and I have both been around a long time, and when I worked for a previous agency, they just basically gave you your handcuffs, your badge, and your gun and said, head on out there, boy, and do what you got to do. Times have really changed. Why is it necessary to train officers who, at least on the surface, appear to have been trained? They went to an academy. Why is it necessary to train them?
Because the academy does not really afford the real-life experiences that we encounter out there in dealing with people. And it's certainly been proven. It started out in San Jose, I believe, or San Diego, that with better training, the officers became better officers. They made less mistakes. There was less liability. Officers weren't injured as much. So with knowledge comes power, and by educating officers to become better police officers.
Now, you've been here quite a while. You've been here since 1981. You are currently the senior patrol officer in the department. And even though I'm older than you, as one person told me recently, Rick, you're older than dirt. Well, if I'm older than dirt, then you are as old as dirt, I think.
Just about.
Just about, yes. But you've done quite a bit in the department. You're not just an FTO, which is our short abbreviation for field training officer. You've done gone in other avenues in the department, so your experience is quite varied. Tell us some of the things you've done over the years here.
Well, I've been an accident investigator. I still am, and I've some other breathalyzer operator, just other special training that has come up that has afforded me greater development as a police officer.
And if I recall, you actually were one of our original mountain bike officers as well.
Yes, I was.
So you have a lot of training, and personally and professionally, I'm glad you're here, because I know when I've been out on the street with you, I've always felt more comfortable and secure knowing that you had my back.
Well,
I always appreciate it.
Thank you for that compliment.
So let's go to one of our younger officers, recruit officer, Katie Roshirt. And we'd like to welcome you to the department, Katie.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, how long have you been here?
August 12th was when we were first hired, so a few months now.
Now, we hired you with 3 other officers.
Correct.
Did you all have the same starting date?
Yes, we did.
So
same exact date.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not on the bottom. You are, but you're joined
right.
with 3 others.
But I have company.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your background. And one of the things that I find very interesting, and I think it's good for our community, is you are a local girl.
That's
so
right.
you are a daughter of West Bloomfield.
Yes,
and
I am.
You have joined the department that you grew up watching the cars go by your neighborhood.
Yep. Yep.
Now tell us a little bit about your background. I know you grew up around here, but where did you go to college and where did you go to school?
I grew up in West Bloomfield, and I grew up Mission Springs over there on Hiller and Greer, and went to West Bloomfield High School. Graduated in 2006. Then went to Central Michigan, got my bachelor's in sociology from there. Graduated in 2010, and realized that I wanted to be a police officer and I wanted to go that route. So I went to the academy at Macomb, and heard, thankfully, that West Bloomfield was going to be hiring, and got very lucky and got hired here.
Well, we got lucky as well. Now, let me ask you, did you always want to be a police officer?
I knew I wanted to do something with laws, either attorney or police officer, and I realized that being a lawyer had a lot of paperwork and a lot of time spent in the office, and that didn't really fit me very well. So I liked being on the road, I liked being outside, and I definitely liked being with people. So this seemed like a better fit.
Okay. So you graduated from CMU, came back to Southeast Michigan, got a job with West Bloomfield. But you worked for another department before coming here. Where did you start out?
Yes, I got hired with Kego Harbor Police Department, and then I've also worked for the Oakland County Sheriff's Office for a year, both places for a year.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. What did you do for Oakland County?
I worked for their Results Program, which is a program that does drug testing for people on probation and parole.
Okay, that's not a law enforcement position?
We are. We're in uniform,
okay.
and we're issued all of our duty gear and everything, but we are not on the road.
Oh,
we're in
okay.
an office.
All right. Now, you said you went to the Macomb Police Academy. For people who don't know, we have several regional academies in Michigan. Most people probably have heard the Michigan State Police has their own academy, as well as the Detroit Police Department. But for other smaller departments, they go to a regional academy. I know I went to the Oakland Police Academy. John, where did you go?
I also went to the
You went to Oakland as well?
Yeah.
And you went to Macomb. Now, I'm sure the period in the academy is much longer now than when I went. In fact, the horse that I rode in the academy is dead. So how long was the academy when you went in?
Ours was 18 weeks.
18 weeks.
18 weeks, yep. From start to finish, 18, yep.
Wow. That seemed like it was a long time when I was there, and I think it was 8 weeks in those days, and that seemed like a long time.
Yeah.
Mine was 8.
Was it 8 as well? Yeah. Now, when you left Macomb, did you go in, were you sponsored by the Sheriff's Department or Kego, or did you go in as pre-service?
I was pre-service.
Why don't you explain what that is?
An officer or a person who would like to be hired as a police officer has to attend an academy to be what they call certifiable. And it used to be more common that a person that would like to be a police officer could get hired by a police department first, and the police department would pay for them to go to the academy and sponsor them, as they call it. Then you would be an in-service. If you did not be so lucky to get hired first, and you put yourself through, you pay for your own way, you pay your own money, then you're pre-service, which I was, which is more common nowadays.
Yes, yes it is. I know when I was in, there were some people that were pre-service, but the vast majority were sponsored by an agency.
Right.
John, was it that way as well when you were in the academy?
Same. There were more sponsored officers than pre-service folks.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about the FTO program. Just as you had stated earlier, I agree with you. I think it's a great change that's occurred in law enforcement over the last 30 or 40 years, rather than just sending someone out there cold. John, when you're as a senior officer and someone that's well respected in the department, what are you looking for, or how do you approach training a young recruit like Katie?
Desire, motivation, and intelligence. And Katie has all three.
Okay.
Hard worker, smart. Tries to learn, tries to accept criticism and move on from there. Criticism or correction,
Right. Constructive criticism.
Constructive criticism to learn the job.
Right. And, some people think in many ways, you hear the old standard that, police, anyone can do that. And I totally disagree with that. Not just because I'm in the occupation, but, just even our old policies and procedures manual, I know now it's all digital, but that's about that thick. And the motor vehicle code is about that thick. So this is a complicated job. And it's become even more complicated, I think, over the years with video and everything being recorded, and the expectations are higher. So when you first get someone like Katie in the car, kind of give me a run through the first day.
Well, the first day I told her, don't get me killed. And I do my best not to get her killed. So that was the first instruction. And then it was just amounting to take the radio calls as they're dispatched, do the job that we're supposed to do. I show and demonstrate, and then allow her to try and emulate what I try and do in the best accordance with policy and procedure, and to set the best example out there.
Well, now, when you first get in the car, are you driving or are you letting Katie drive?
Well, that's a long story, but normally I would drive first, but because she had a year experience coming out of Kego, I let her start driving right away.
Okay. All right. Now, Katie, you did have some experience. Mm-hmm. You weren't totally green, but also being a young officer, how many years did you have coming in? About a year?
Yes.
You do learn, but I think anyone who's been in law enforcement for any period of time will tell you that a year is just enough to start getting your feet wet. You don't, even after 35 years, you never know everything.
Right.
So when you came in, coming from a different department, two different departments, but having a little experience, did you tell the old guy over there, move over, I know what I'm doing?
No, I did not do that.
I know you didn't.
I knew that John had lots of experience, so I was really excited to work with him. And I know he's trained just about everyone in the department, so he is very good at what he does, and I was very excited to work with him and very lucky that I got him as my main training officer.
Yeah, see, now it's just a little secret between the two of us, the three of us. I had heard when I hired him, John made a point to tell them, I don't want that old guy. So you're very lucky. I didn't have John as an FTO. But everyone I know that has worked with John as a recruit, and even those of us who've worked with him as a fellow officer, we're very lucky to be a part of the same unit with him. What was your expectation coming in? Now, you came from a very small department.
I did, yep.
Part-time. Was your position in Oakland County also part-time?
Yes, it was.
Now you're full-time.
Yeah.
What were some of the things you were thinking about or expecting in a larger department as far as maybe how the officers were going to greet you? But you may have known some of our officers, did you not? I
did. I met a few of them on the road. I did. I knew that the training program was going to be harder, for sure. I knew there was going to be more tasks and more things that I'd have to follow through on and follow up, and I was excited to get the training. You know, my last working in Kego, I wasn't fortunate enough to have a full FTO program, which is kind of, you know, it doesn't help you out. It doesn't benefit you. You know, the more training, the better you are in general with anything. So I was excited to come and get a full FTO training to be a better officer in the long run.
Good, good. That's good to hear. And I know we were very excited to have you and the other officers come because it's been a few years. It's no secret the economy in Michigan was tanked.
Right.
And we were fortunate, unlike a lot of agencies, we didn't have any layoffs, but we didn't replace anybody. So we went about 5 years without replacing officers. That was quite a long period of time for us. So we were all glad to see you and the others come. So, John, what is the hardest thing about training a young officer for you personally?
The hardest or the scariest?
Well, let's go with both.
The hardest is to really just try and cover all the knowledge areas that need to be explained and covered. And it's a very complex job complex within the patrol car itself, with all the equipment that we have to operate, all the electronics in there now that weren't in there before.
Right.
Having to learn that, having to learn the computer systems, having to learn how to deal with the public to do the job. It is very difficult and complex.
Right. Now, what about the scariest?
Probably relinquishing the steering wheel.
Yeah.
With nothing meant about female drivers.
No, that's
I
right.
would say that if it was a male recruit officer as well, that's a scary thing to do.
Well, and as police officers, we like control, we like control, and that's part of being our personalities, and I think it is difficult to say, okay, go ahead, take over. Now, as a young officer coming in, even with the experience you have, what were some of the hardest things for you to face?
The hardest thing probably is just trying to do everything right. That's honestly the hardest thing, is because you know you're being graded. and sometimes that could put some added pressure on you, not to mess up. So that's probably the hardest thing, is to make sure that you get everything right, you remember what you're supposed to do, and then you do it all correctly. Mm-hmm. So that's probably the hardest thing.
Now, what about the scariest thing, Jan?
The scariest is knowing that, now I'm in my end stage, so I'm in the shadow, I'm going to be in the shadow phase.
Well, why don't you explain what that is?
The shadow phase is the end of our training period, where we go back to our first training officer, and he then becomes just a passenger. In the beginning, he was helping us out. He was explaining everything to us. Now he has taught us everything we need to know, and now he's just going to watch us. So the scariest thing now is knowing that, he can help me, and he definitely will if I have a question, but,
right.
It's all on me now. So
right.
Now
and he's not going to let you get hurt.
Right, of course.
And if the situation starts to go down the tubes,
yes,
he obviously is a police officer and an experienced one of that. He's going to back you up and help you. Mm-hmm. There are 4 stages to the FTO program, correct, John? Why don't you explain that very quickly, because I know we only have a couple minutes left.
The first stage is basically the training officer does all the work and shows and demonstrates to the recruit officer. That's a 4-week period. Then there's another 4-week period and another 4-week period. As those periods progress, the subsequent training officers do less and less work, and more work is heaped on the recruit as they learn and become more comfortable with the job, until the end stage, which Katie is in now, where, in essence, I won't do any of the work, and Katie will do all the work, and I'll just grade her on what she does. And
when you mentioned a 4-week period, they're not, like right now she's on day shift with you, but each recruit starts out in a different shift. They're going to have a taste of each shift: day shift, afternoon shift, and midnight. So they're not going to, and when you're low man or low woman on the totem pole, once your shadow period is over, we will never see you again, as you will be on midnights forevermore.
Yeah, yes.
Or at least for a period of time, or afternoons, wherever we need you.
Right. Yep.
Now, even in the shadow period, once you go out on your own, in a sense, you're still being tested, because yours a probationary period. John, what is our probationary period now?
It's a year, and it can be extended up to 18 months if the recruit officer needs more time and training.
Okay. Now, when she's on the probationary period, do you as a recruit officer still have anything to do with Katie, or are you done now at this point, once she's out of the shadow?
We still, she could certainly be reassigned to a field training officer again if there was a determined need. But all the field training officers and all the senior officers tend to look out for the new officers, knowing that they're new, and everyone's just a little more attentive to when her number pops up, 115, people will listen in and go help her out or just back her up to make sure that she's safe.
Okay. Well, and you know what? And I think I speak for all the officers there, even though I haven't worked with you on the road and or any of the other officers. I think I speak for all the officers there that if you ever need anything, I think hopefully you feel that you can go to any officer and ask a question. We may not know the answer, but hopefully we at least know where to send you to get the help you need. Mm-hmm. And I know when I was in the FTO program, and of course I had a lot of experience coming here, which didn't mean I knew everything. In fact, I was coming from an urban environment where things were done very much differently to a new department. It was that kink in the neck, always looking over to the right to the FTO. Is it okay? Is it okay? So anyway, we're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
If you two would just sit here for a little bit, we're going to go to our memorial. Folks, we'd like to remember a fallen officer, so if you would please remember in your thoughts and in your prayers Deputy Game Warden Julius A. Salmonson, who died in the line of duty on November 15th, 1908. So that's over 100 years ago. And unfortunately, his heroics were lost in the fog of history. And that is a crying shame in and of itself. But I promise you, from this day forward, he will not be forgotten. Deputy Game Warden Julius Salmonson and 2 other officers were in a boat on the White Lake, and that boat had capsized when they were attempting to retrieve an illegal fishing net from the White Lake Channel. All 3 officers perished in that event, and their bodies were located 600 feet from shore after an extensive search. This man was just 31 years old. He was a young man. He was survived by a wife and 1 child. So if you would, please remember this great American hero, Deputy Game Warden Julius A. Salmonson of the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. Please remember him in your thoughts and your prayers. And we say, brother, we are sorry it took so long to recognize you, but from this day forward you will not be forgotten, and your memory will be eternal. Once again, I would like to thank our guest, Senior Officer, Field Training Officer, and good friend, John Truitt, for coming on once again. And one of the newbies, one of our newest officers, Recruit Officer Katie Roshirt. Katie, thank you for coming on, and I hope you have a wonderful, long, and happy career here at West Bloomfield.
Thank you.
As we were saying off camera, when you're an old lady, as John and I are old now, you can say to your grandchildren, that was Grandma a long time ago, and those guys that I'm with, I don't think they're around anymore. So thank you for coming on this show.
Thanks.
Thank you both. Folks, once again, thank you for watching West Bloomfield 911. I'm Officer Rick. And remember, if you can't catch us on the telly, you can always go to civiccentertv.com on the internet and watch us at your convenience. So until next time, be safe, take care of yourselves. Remember, tomorrow is promised to no one. And we'll see you again on West Bloomfield 911.